What's up and welcome, man, back on a Monday Star Wars Newsnet pod, recording on I guess it's still technically Friday night over here in Orlando, but by the time this pod ends, we will enter into Saturday morning, I think, by the time we get done. Paul, great to see you. It's been...
Hi.
We kind of like to do these like monthly like check-ins, I feel like, and I'm all about that. I'm all about
doing monthly check-ins with you, Tyler. You and Val are awesome. Love you guys. Tell Val what's up for me. Like it's been a while. It's been weird. Maybe with one of our monthly check-ins, we can talk about the previous to this. Because we talked a little bit about that before, which I'd love to kind of talk a little bit about at some point, but not today. Today, when we talked about doing this show, we were like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, well, we got some ideas here and there. And then all of a sudden we got big, I'm not sure if you eat meat. I'm assuming you eat meat, but my wife doesn't. I can't assume everyone does. But every once in a while, you get a big, juicy steak just on your lap. And that's exactly what we got. We got a nice, we got a lot to talk about. So if you wanted to get into it, we can jump in.
Yeah, so obviously we touched this a little bit last night. We were recording the live show. Like we talked for 20 minutes just about some of the broader stuff of this. So I'm really excited to get what your initial reactions are, but also kind of get into the the nitty gritty with some of this, and because there's a lot to get into. But Simon Kinberg signed on reportedly to do a trilogy for Lucasfilm, and there are, some mixed reports out there on whether this is episode, 10 to 12, whether it's not. Personally, I think that this is going to not be a 10 through 12. It's going to be a separate jump start. Obviously, it could completely get rebranded before it ever sees the light of day. I think this is going to be separate from the new Jedi Order movie with Rey as well, and just be its own thing. Not to say Rey won't be involved. We've seen the reports that she might be the Obi-Wan figure. So I'm curious, before we even dive into the minutia of all of this, I want to know from you, and you said something before we got on that I thought was interesting too, about how with Star Wars in general, it's been, difficult to maybe get back just really into it right now. And that makes perfect sense. Yeah, really excited. And so from your perspective, where is the pulse of the fandom right now? Like, what does the pulse of the fandom look like? Because when you have news like this come out, it's easy to get really excited while also even jaded because of what's happened with all of the other projects that we've seen come and never actually happen.
Yeah. That's a great setup, because I think the pulse right now is just very all over the place, and that's not good for if you're a brand, trying to sell to people, right? You want people to be unified on one thing. You kind of want to know if fans either all hate or I say all, obviously now everyone's gonna hate all like love and hate the same things, but if you're marketing to people, general audience, you kind of want to know which way to zig and zag, right? You want to know, hey, everyone loves this or everyone does not like this. It's when it's kind of it's in the middle is when you really don't want it to be, right?
Right.
And I feel like Star Wars is right in the middle of everything right now. It's just there's a lot of people, we get into all of their crap, but the problem is I think people are it's either sort of some people who are really excited and who are hardcore fans, and there are people like me probably are kind of in the middle, which you don't want to be in the middle. You want people to be excited and honestly, if they're not excited at all and like just being like, or just very kind of flippant about it, you want to know what you're doing wrong to flip that, right? So I feel like right now it's not either one of those. It's just right in that weird middle ground, which is not great. It's not good either, or it's not a bad, but it's not great. And I think that's where we're at right now with the fallout from the Acolyte, and with just, and I'll be honest too, and this kind of is and I don't mean to go too far of a segue to this, but with the whole Kathleen Kennedy, and listen, I am not, people who followed me for a long time know I'm not a Kathleen Kennedy hater, but I've been extremely more critical of her the last 2 years for sure. And I think it's rightfully so. You can't.
I think most people would agree with that. I mean, It's crazy how fast the Star Wars brands seem to go from, oh my goodness, it is back better than ever, to we have no idea what to expect and whether or not, the future is bright.
Yeah, and I think that when you put the acolyte weird, one side versus the other, which again, whatever, but it's true, and the fact that straight up like led to probably helping. I didn't say it was the cause, but didn't help at all, and I think it hurt it definitely. Um, the acolyte, and then the result of that, right? I think when you put that with the fact that with all these weird start and stops and production problems that Kathleen Kennedy's had off and on for so many years, and Mando is probably the only home run you've had, really in forever, then there's cause for concern. Or I would say,
Mhm.
excuse me, I would say Ahsoka was a good hit. It wasn't a runaway hit, but
Mhm.
it was a double. If
It
you're a
did enough.
baseball
It did enough.
person,
With it did what
yeah,
they needed it to do.
I love it. I ain't gonna lie, I
Mhm.
love it. But I mean, but yeah, it's not driving the general audience crazy, but I think it's successful enough for the mainstream for the main Star Wars audience, which is massive, that get them kind of watching and watching and watching, and I love Ahsoka, just straight up,
Mhm.
right? So anyway, that's where I think we're at right now before this announcement, and I don't know. I think there's there's a lot to go in with this discussion, to be honest, with the announcement.
It to me, Star Wars feels like they're just that one hit away from taking back, everything by storm. Like I feel like they're just
Mm-hmm.
one big like swing and a home run away from just absolutely being quote unquote back. And because I think there is, as much negativity as there has been around the fandom, a lot of it is centered around both. I think
Yeah.
everything that happened with the Acolyte, but also Star Wars, first and foremost, is a movie franchise, and
Mm-hmm.
for the most, successful multi generational movie franchise of all time, to have as many issues getting a single film up and going, not just
Mm-hmm.
on the screen, but even in production, even like
Right.
moving. We haven't seen
Mm-hmm.
anything outside of The Mandalorian. And they did that as a way because they were so desperate for something to happen. They were like, we're just going to shove this in front of people. So I think Star Wars is one movie away from really being back. The problem is, I would also argue they're one movie away from absolutely flushing their brand down the toilet as well. Like if we have
Well
another
said. Mm-hmm.
and we completely disagree with The Last Jedi and whether or not we like it, but I think we
Yeah.
both agree that the discourse from it, you have another movie that has that kind of discourse. I mean, it would be borderline. I think like it would be hard to recover from that for a long time. So I think Star Wars is like right on. It's teetering on the edge of could go either way, and so this
Mm-hmm.
news I think comes at a very interesting time. And so I
Yes.
am, I saw a few things that you were tweeting out there about how you felt like Simon Kinberg being brought on is a sign that they were like, we need someone reliable, someone that we know
Oh
can
yeah.
get something done that has experience with Lucasfilm. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are so many Star Wars fans that probably saw that news and said, "Oh, so this is going to be the next project that gets nixed for
It's
creative
canceled.
differences
Right.
down the
Right.
line. Like this isn't ever actually going to see the light of day."
Sure.
And I can actually like understand that. So, from your point of view, what would you say to try to both, obviously it's understandable how those fans are feeling
Totally.
and makes
Yeah.
complete sense given everything that's happened. But why do you seem to be on the side that's like, this is actually like, you have good vibes about this? Like, there may be some good mojo going on here.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, okay, I was not excited initially at first until I read, and this I want to preface this, and I just hope they're right, and I trust Deadline, but I was like, what? I don't know. And then I read about 10, 11, 12, and the Simon Kinberg was signed on to do 3 films, a trilogy,
Mhm.
and the Deadline guy didn't confirm it was 10, 11, 12. And I think that's key because I have some theories on this, and people who know me know I love my theories, but it's people who are acting like, and this is no offense to you or to knock on you or anything, but people who are acting like the 10, 11, 12 thing, oh yeah, whatever. That is very purposely put in there. You got to remember, Deadline Variety is a controlled leak. It
Mhm.
is not. It is not a. Oh, I just happened to spill this thing. Whatever. Like no, no, no,
Mhm.
no, no. When the studios are ready to announce something and they're like, why don't we just leak it to Deadline? Why don't we just
Mhm.
leak it to Variety? Those two are the main ones, right? Like anyone else, Hollywood Reporter, maybe also another controlled leak. You could say. I would say it's more under Variety and Deadline. I'd be
Mhm.
more of the controlled leaks. I would say more so even Deadline at this point. I think Deadline's pretty like spot on with that kind of stuff. But anyway, um, and then you have it's funny because I saw that and I instantly got excited, Tyler, because I I have always thought Star Wars should not revolve, but always have an ongoing narrative
Mhm.
that people can always look back to and backtrack their family with, like the Skywalker saga, right? And
Mhm.
that's why I was really against the Last Jedi, because I didn't like the fact that it was very rando, and we can get I don't want to get into that, but that was part of why I really wanted to keep that lineage going. And you could say what you want about the Rise of Skywalker. I love it, whatever. But I think the positive is you still let the Skywalker line continue through Rey in some loose form or loose or whatever you want. She's a Skywalker now. And I think what's cool is you let that door open. And I forgot his name. The guy who wrote Rise of Skywalker with JJ. Um, he wrote Justice
Mhm.
League. I've totally forgotten his name. He even said, because they marketed it as the last of the trilogy, and like I always take that stuff with a grain of salt, because even like George Lucas said the trilogy was or saga was ending with Revenge of the Sith, right?
Right.
I mean like whatever. But even he said, yeah, like if it's successful, Disney will make more. Like it's not like he even said that, but they're
Mhm.
marketing it as a, like there's words ending, whatever. I get it, but I think there's a lot of reasons why I think this is good. Because one, the Skywalker brand is you could sell that. It's instantly sellable.
Mhm.
You can't. It's like Grogu at this point, Baby Yoda. Like that is you could sell that. You could just sell it as a Skywalker fan. People know exactly what that is. You don't have to say Rey, Luke,
Right.
Anakin. You say Skywalker. You know exactly what it is. You identify what it is, and that is
Mhm.
smart brand. That's smart branding and selling your brand and keeping that in line. Ditching that completely is not I wouldn't say dumb. It's just you're gonna be fighting an uphill battle in some ways if you're not continuously hitting home runs with Mandalorians all the time, getting
Right.
new stories, right? So there that by itself is smart. Okay, whether you love Ray or not, having her continue that line one way or another, whether it be biological children or adopt, whatever you want to do with, and I love my theories with Skywalker, right?
Mhm.
I think it just makes a lot of sense if you want to keep your brand whole. And again, not because the idiots on YouTube being like, "Oh, Star Wars is dead," blah, blah. Not because of those people, because those people are a minority. Just like we are the minority
Right.
of hardcore fans, right? But we always forget what decides everything is the general audience. But what does the general audience know? They know Skywalker without a doubt. It's a
Mhm.
household name. So I think that is one thing that's interesting. So the fact that they dropped that and it wasn't confirmed is also important. He says, I'm hearing, I think, if anything, my theory would be on initially if it's not 100% on the money and they're just not ready to like fully commit to it in one way or
Mhm.
another, whether it's whatever reason, it's to put feelers out there. I think
Yeah.
that I think that to me that's one reason. I do it, but gun to my head, I hate saying gun, but the gun to my head, I think it's 10, 11, 12. But here's why. Because you have the Ray movie, right? And
Right.
everyone's like, Ray this and Ray that. And you've lost writers. You've lost Lindelhoff. You're losing credibility by the second. because that movie's supposed to be put into production like right now, and it ain't. We have had no announcements for that. And I didn't even know this, but someone alerted me that Daisy has gone on record saying we should hear something very soon
Right.
before this announcement.
Right.
So I'm
I
like,
don't think this is the
that's it.
announcement.
I know, but listen, the fact is, KK needs something right now.
Yep.
She needs something right now. Kinberg is as efficient as you're going to get in this industry. This guy is not only a writer, he's a director, well, quality director. I'm not saying he's quality, but
I'm glad he's not attached as writer, producer, director. I think he's in his wheelhouse, just writing and co-producing.
but producing is a big thing here. And I think that is the key that people are forgetting. Not only can he write, he knows what to write for and what his budget is and what that means and what it's conducive with the director.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great producer. Look at his producing credits, man. He's done all kinds of stuff. Now he's not just because he's linked to it doesn't mean he's always successful or bad or whatever. But as someone who I love X-Men movies, like First Class,
Yeah.
Future Past. Yeah, Apocalypse, not great. He wrote Apocalypse. I would argue that Apocalypse probably had a lot to do with Bryan Singer, who was a nightmare to work with on that movie, I hear.
Dark
He was
Phoenix.
also, in Dark Phoenix, he wrote and directed, and it's awful. Straight up. I don't know. I can't defend that. But you know what? Like, I'm not going to, you can't, you work in this industry
right.
long enough,
You're gonna have some
write
duds.
stinkers.
But
You're gonna.
even with that being so, I think that goes back to the whole producing, writing, directing thing with Dark Phoenix. He was kind of just given. It was like, hey, you've written, you've produced these. Here's
You've earned
yours,
this.
and it almost felt like,
exactly.
we kind of pushed maybe outside of his wheelhouse, so to speak. Because even just looking at some of his direction, I'm not a big fan of. Here's where I push back a little bit on having a 100% continued storyline is because when you do that, and yes, we want to go, I'm not saying episode 10, 11, 12 gets announced. That's not going to do numbers. It would do numbers. When I think about Star Wars and what I think is best for Star Wars as a brand moving forward is what is something that expands Star Wars to the next generation of fans for the next 20 years. Because that's how I feel like Star Wars should think, because that's kind of what we've had with each of our trilogies and how it's kind of pushed forward fandoms and it's grown. And with The Mandalorian, it had nothing to do. Season 1 had nothing to do with Skywalkers. It had nothing to do. The name Skywalker isn't thrown around at all. There's no Jedi. You have Grogu, who is the closest thing to the Jedi that we get. And all we know about him in season 1 is that he just uses the Force. So that's all we have. And that was an amazing success that has birthed multiple spin-off shows. And without the success of season 1 of The Mandalorian, Dave Filoni doesn't have a feature film kind of doing a culmination event of that entire universe. And all that was because they said, we're going to make something fresh, something exciting, and we're going to build our entire streaming platform based around the idea of The Mandalorian. And so if we were to come in, and if Star Wars is going to do 10, 11, 12, awesome. It's going to do great numbers because it's Star Wars. It's the Skywalkers. You could put that on a poster. But when we start getting to episode 11 and 12, and we're trying to bring new fans into Star Wars, and we're telling them, hey, in order to fully grasp what's happening in 10, 11, 12, you got to go back and watch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 films. I think we get into a little trouble about expanding the fandom. I think that the best way to go about this is why I think they're going to do this, is have some of these characters. There's no reason why you can't have characters we're familiar with pop in here or there in some sort of mentorship type role. I've heard like Rey being akin to the Obi-Wan in this like trilogy. And I think that fits in a little bit more. If we're going to follow the Skywalker lineage in a 10, 11, 12, which again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Let's jump way ahead in the future.
I agree with that.
And see that happen. Yeah. But if Daisy's involved and she's in these movies, that doesn't make any sense to me, because you have a prime Daisy Ridley, Rey Skywalker ready to go. Like, I'm not ready to
Right.
see her just thrust into a mentorship role when the last time we saw her, it felt like she had finally entered into like the prime Jedi state.
Okay, so here's where I'm gonna say I think you can have your cake and eat it too, because I think there's a couple things with this. I totally agree with you. The problem is right now, and I think you'd agree with Tyler,
Mhm.
the track record as of the success rate. Now, not your success rate, but the general audience success rate for new characters has not been great. Let's be real. Like, it's not been. I mean, I would say
Rogue One.
Rogue One, Rogue One, right? And I mean Andor again. I'd say Andor only because it's associated with Rogue One. Andor series is not doing numbers. It's just it's a
It
critical
doesn't. They
hit.
don't. They don't care about that. I don't think. Like not that
Yeah,
much. I think they care
yeah,
about the
yeah.
prestige.
Right. Well, they should care about the numbers too. But you can only the prestige can only drive it so far, right? So
Right.
but whatever, right?
If
So
they
they've got
if Andor wins an Emmy somehow next year though, but only 5 people watch it, they'll pop champagne bottles.
I don't know, whatever. So but here's the thing. I'll give you Rogue One and Andor, Mando.
Hmm.
And then I'd say the sequel trilogy is successful, yes, but after that, it's just like you haven't really like Solo didn't. I love Solo, but Solo didn't connect with people. Ahsoka has done well, but it's kind of part of that Mandoverse a little bit.
But
Like
Solo
they're
isn't
again,
new characters though. It's I mean that's built around legacy characters right there
right, right.
in Han and Chewie.
And then Book of Boba Fett didn't do great, but even like I said though, like you can even Andor didn't light the world on fire as far as the general audience did, right? That's what I'm
Right.
saying. Like Mando's the only thing, and right now you're fighting an uphill battle. To Acolyte didn't do as what we all
Hmm.
thought it was. I
Right.
think that's what you have to realize is you only have so much time. And we talked. You said it yourself, right? Like they're one bad movie away from blowing this whole thing up.
Hmm.
Your brand's done. So, and I don't mean to say like go to what's safe, but I do think
They
it's
are
smart.
with
Well,
With
well,
Mando and Grogu.
right, yeah, right. But I think, that feels like a natural progression. And I think the one thing I would say that George, I think I always look back at George Lucas
Hmm.
and bummed out he didn't do was get to Star Wars faster. And I think that's where I think that doing 10, 11, 12 right now is a smart thing because Ray, it'll be almost 10 years since The Force Awakens. That's a long time. And
Hmm.
it's been a while since, because I got Rise of Skywalker came out and then we had our daughter like a few months later. It's crazy. But, um, it's, the thing is, it's by the time these things get going, it's gonna add up. Like it's not like, it's like it was a couple of years ago. It's gonna be like there's been enough time, and
Hmm.
at least for me. And I think that we're so used to like so many gaps between these sagas that like we're like, oh, this is too soon. Like I don't think so, because I do think that everyone is ready for this will be by the time it comes out, it'll be a new generation. And I think that you've built up enough goodwill with Ray, even though there's the idiots on YouTube are like, no one cares about Ray. Like, I don't think so. I think Ray, is she as big as Luke and Anakin? No. But it's don't pretend that she's not important. And she
Hmm.
is. Like, people lost their minds when she came out. And if Disney and Lucasfilm didn't feel confident in a a Ray movie in
Hmm.
general, why would they even be making it? Like, she's enough of a recognizable character and she's backed by a fantastic actress that why wouldn't you put your money down on that? So
Hmm.
this is what I would say. This is why I think potentially Ray movie did turn into 10, 11, 12 or whatever because Lindelhoff and he came on with Filoni, they developed something, they liked it, but there was something going. There was conflict. They got Stephen DeKnight, whatever his name is, the guy. That's a different guy, but another writer who wrote Eastern Promises, which is, by the way, Eastern Promises is so good. Um, he did a script and he tried to do it before the strike, and
Hmm.
but they are built upon these release dates, and that's what's key here with Kinberg, and they put him on for 3 movies,
Hmm.
and like and he knows how this works. he knows what's going on. He's going to hit his deadlines. And so whatever is going to happen, and again, I could be wrong. Maybe this is not. I do find it weird if they would do a Rey movie and have Rey be in this movie as well. That's why I'm like, it's either Rey or not. It's not a little bit of both. It's either going to be full on 10, 11, 12 with Rey, or it's Rey and it's a completely different thing, which again, Kinberg, you put him on, he's put in to get that's what his role is. That's again, no one's told me anything. That's just my assumption because let's face it, look at KK's track record right now. What has she made? She's made television shows based upon Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. That's it. And the Acolyte. And the Acolyte crashed and burned for as far as like the success. I mean, again, I actually like the Acolyte a lot. I don't love it. I like it a lot. A lot of great stuff. There's a lot of whatever, like different podcasts. But here's what I'm going to push back. I'll let you rebuttal here in a second. I go on these large tangents. You said that once you get 10, 11, 12, people start feeling like, oh, I have a lot of homework to do. That's not how they marketed 7, 8, and 9. They marketed it as here's The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, and people, all you have to see is what's that? Oh, it's episode 10. Oh, cool, whatever. It's like they don't care. They know what's going on, and what's fun is you can keep it going, but still never put it in the title of the movie. It's just the next saga. And people know that. When they see the scroll come out, and the scroll is supposed to keep people up to date. It's the whole point. And again, I don't want to get into the Last Jedi debate, but part of the problem with The Last Jedi is you have a crawl, but why? You don't really need a crawl because it takes place right afterwards. So the crawl is literally meant to keep you up to date with like everything and go, oh, I got it. Cool. Let's move in. Like that's the whole point. So to me, I think you could keep doing it forever. With the MCU, it's a little different because like it's based upon connectivity with different things rolling into one. With the sagas, you really don't have to worry about that because you have the crawl, and then you have like this whole like it's a 3-act play in 3 movies. So I feel people are conditioned in a good way to know like, hey, I can walk into this and I have a problem. So I feel like that's where I feel maybe Kinberg, if this is 10, 11, 12, Tyler, I think Kinberg maybe even pitched that, said like, you know what, like we're built into like, we're good. We just have to make good movies and people are going to be fine. So again, that's my assumption.
So 10, 11, 12. My issue is I like the idea of the quote unquote, or whatever we're calling it now, the Skywalker saga. I love the idea of the Skywalker saga having, for a while, having just a neat bow on it. Like this is a singular story. The Skywalker saga is a singular story about the rise and fall of Emperor Palpatine that was basically centered around this family of Skywalkers that led to his rise, but also brought him crashing back down. Like I love the idea of that being a singular narrative, and now that Palpatine is gone for good, and to some degree Ben Solo has died, I like the idea of Rey now being the last Skywalker. If you do movies centered around her, but episode 10, if she's going to be in a little bit, I like the idea of like she represents the end of that chapter and the start of a new one, but separate from the Skywalker saga.
See, I'm with you on this. I'm with you. Like, I actually think that's a possibility, to be honest. I think that's because I think if you keep it as like this ongoing story and have it be like this ongoing, like whatever, you could transition it to something else, but you have to be pretty good about it. And that's where I would say you'd have to be really confident in your pitch and your narrative, because again, like any good story, but with Star Wars, if you're moving on from the Skywalkers, you better damn well have something good to replace it. And that's where I would say it goes back to my point earlier. Why would you get rid of the Skywalker name when it's such a strong name? It's awesome. I mean, think about it. I mean, like,
I don't want to get rid of the Skywalker name. It's more about how do we transition from being from a point of like, oh, if we don't have Skywalkers in Star Wars, then what are we really confident we can make a movie happen? Like, is this going to really
You
take
are.
off when
It's called Mando, Rogue One.
exactly? That's my point.
Right. Well, that's my
So
point
like
too.
that's
Is
why
like
why
you
can't
have that
Ray
already.
be right? But like we have a Ray movie that can be like our we're in the Skywalkers episodes or 10, 11, 12, or this new saga, which I think this is going to be a start of a new saga that takes
Yeah.
place later. You can have Ray be a part. The Skywalker name can be present in it's Star Wars. It's going to be
It should be
there.
its
But
focus. That's what I think. Yeah,
yes,
it should be its
but it shouldn't is
focus.
I don't think the driving force is centered around like the descendants of Ray or like something like that. I think it should be separate. We're starting a new journey. There's a new
Right.
threat. We are starting something completely different, but obviously has to, have the building blocks of episodes 1 through 9. I'm not saying, oh, new saga, we're not even mentioning anything
Right.
that's
No. Yeah.
happened.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, see, this is where I go back to again. I don't want to act like my idea is like amazing, but like, listen, I think this is a foolproof idea. I think I've talked about on the show with you many times. That's why I think you should transition the Skywalker family name into a title of some kind,
Right.
which and that I would be 1,000% into, because then you could, if you could somehow transition that, which I think is a no-brainer at this point. Like, it's like
Mhm.
you've set that up in The Rise of Skywalker. It's in the title. It's at the end of the movie. Like, why did? Because people always complain like, she barely even knows whatever. I can argue that all day. Honestly, I could argue it all day, because I do think there is a room and a massive story idea to turn the Rey Skywalker idea and move that into a title or a group or
Right.
whatever, or something like that, where you can now make it the Skywalker saga. It transitions from a family to a whatever you want it. If you could do that,
Mhm.
then it makes sense, right? Then you can do whatever you want, and you
Mhm.
don't have to worry about, well, they have to be this direct descendant, because I do feel that could get tiresome, but I do kind of think that's kind of cool too, because like I said before, you're sharing it with your family, and it's just generational, and that's what the family is. It's
Mhm.
generational. So I I I only push back a little bit on keeping the Skywalkers as a focus as a family in that sense.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of cool. But I see your point, and I do think that I think it should still be about Skywalkers, but I think they should, if it is 10, 11, 12, it should be, they should transition that into a group of Jedi or something like that, right? Like, you get what I'm
Mhm.
saying. Again,
Yeah.
my
As
only
far as we
pitch is,
know right now is that this is its own thing, and Charmin Obeid and they're gonna have a new writer for the Rey movie, new Jedi Order movie. You have James Mangold that is doing his Dawn of the Jedi. You
is he
have
though?
it that reportedly this is what it came out recently is that movie is like that's his next thing. He is ready to go on that as soon as he gets done with, I think it's like some biopic he's working. I forget what he's working on. I think he's doing
It's
the
Bob Dylan. It's Bob Dylan. The
Bob. It's
Bob
the
Dylan
Bob Dylan biopic.
biopic. Yeah,
Yes, as soon as he
it
gets done
comes
with
out this
that,
summer
he's
or
in.
Christmas.
They are this is my understanding is that they wanted these two movies to be kind of in production, like ongoing in the process at the same time. The Ray movie is not, and this movie is right where it needs to be. And there was a report that came out in like sometime over the summer that I think it may have been in Snyder's newsletter where he said that he felt he had been hearing that the Mango movie might be the next Star Wars movie, like after Mando and Grogu. And
And
so
think
I'm
about that,
wondering if
man.
that movie's if it's on track, but I wonder how much does this shake up everything? And is this a reactionary thing from the acolytes? Because I wonder when it comes to Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
if obviously there's a million movies supposedly in works. When I
Well,
think of
yeah,
the actual projects that are on their desk that they're concerned about, the number one priority for them is getting what the future of Ray is figured out.
I
And then
agree.
priority number two, it for them has to be like Dave Filoni's film and wrapping up everything in this universe. And then you have Mangold. Those have been the three that I talk about. The Taika stuff, the Lando stuff. I don't even consider any of that like the core
Yeah,
stuff. I just think about who do they bring on stage at Celebration. That's the future of Star Wars films. And now
I
this thing
agree.
gets brought up. I wonder what timelines are pushed around, and is Star Wars transitioning to a point where they don't mind pumping out two movies a year in the future? I I don't know because if
I
you're
hope
having a
not.
trilogy, if you're having a trilogy with Simon Kinberg, plus you're still wanting to go forward with your Mangold, Filoni, and Mando movies, that's I mean that's 3 movies outside of this trilogy. That's 6 movies. You're not planning a movie probably right now, 9 years
Right.
down the line.
But see, this is why I'm saying, Tyler, I think this is the Ray movie, because this is why. You've already said, you just said
Hmm.
exactly why it needs to be, because the Mangold movie is supposed to be next.
Hmm.
So like, if that's again, which again I'm even like skeptical, because I'm like, I don't know, because he's supposed to be doing Swamp Thing at some point for James Gunn. He's doing his biopic. I mean, like, and but there's these dates that they put their tent poles on, and
Right.
they're like, and I, like you said, I don't think they're gonna do 2 movies a year. I just don't think that Star Wars may eventually could get to that point, but it's not there now. It's not close. You don't want to do
Hmm.
that. So this is
I
why
I
I
would
think you're.
love that. I hope it happens in 27.
We'll see, but this is what I'm saying. If you're right, which I don't think you're wrong. I think you're on the money. I think if Mangold, because Mangold will be wrapping up, if this new Dawn of the Jedi movie is supposed to be happening after the Bob Dylan biopic is done, which is releases into Christmas time, then it lines up, because if the Ray movie's been in production hell right now, which it is officially, because
Yeah.
we haven't got a writer or a script, it makes too much sense now that they put Mangold next. They say, Mangold, get this done, and then Kinberg, with now probably having a pitch or a script with him being, because let's be real, he signed this deal not to do it, but probably has already an idea of what's going on, right? So if it's again, let's just believe me for a second, just hear me out. This is the Ray movie. It makes sense, because if you trust Simon Kinberg to get this movie out right after
Hmm.
Mangold, and you want no blips, you trust Kinberg can do it, and he's
Hmm.
gonna do it. So it makes sense then, if you then have Ray, you take this movie about the new Jedi Order, you turn it into 10, 11, 12, and maybe that, to your point earlier, right? Maybe this is the dawn of the new Skywalker line that we're going to be seeing in this 10, 11, 12 movie, with it is the new Jedi Order. They're a
Hmm.
part of it. And that makes you build that into it. And then you also you tell people, get excited, 10, 11, 12, new Skywalkers, a new direction, new saga, because now it's not going to be about a family, a biological family. It's going to be or whatever. It's going to be a new thing. You get people excited. You kind of know that it's not just going to be a one and done one movie. You know it's going to be building up to a trilogy.
Hmm.
What does that mean? You give Kimber time to develop that, get production, and all that stuff. But he's already got a head start, because now he's signed on, and Daisy's already said we're going to hear something soon. It's just a lot of this kind of is lining up to me like, yeah, if it's not 10, 11, 12, it's at least a new Ray movie. It just
Hmm.
makes too much sense to me. So, and because here's the thing too, there's no director, right? Like, we haven't got a director yet. We haven't got a movie that's written yet. Simon Kinberg's writing the movie. He's going to produce the movie, obviously.
But if,
It's
if
all
this is
going.
what you're thinking, then they do have the director in Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy. If that movie is going, they have a director for the first film lined up.
I
Unless you think
forgot.
she's
Yeah.
gone.
Well, I mean, at this point, I think all bets are off, because she can't wait forever, and that's the problem with these develop. That's what the problem with production hell with the stuff, right? People can't just you can't just pay people to stay on,
Hmm.
and that's the thing. Like, if the Shinoy lady again, and I don't know what's going on. I totally forgot they had a director, to be honest, because. Tyler, really? I mean, let's be real. That's legit. It makes sense, because makes sense that you would have Kinberg, because now Kinberg is the boss. He's a producer. He's the writer, and he tells Shinoy, what's up, and not in a derogatory way. I don't mean like that, because again, look what Kinberg's done as a producer, right? First Class, Vaughn, Vaughn. I thought Kinberg wrote it, but he didn't. But let's be real. You're a producer writer. You're gonna be Vaughn was a second time director. I mean, like, Vaughn had some. Vaughn was and him worked closely, because then look
Hmm.
at Days of Future Past is chef's. It's the best X-Men movie, I think, by far. it's actually a brilliant written movie.
Mhm.
And Singer directed it, and he's a nutcase, like straight up. Like that's why a big reason why Apocalypse is bad. And I've heard that I think Days of Future Past was, I think a lot of it was actually carried by Kinberg, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I think Kinberg actually carried Apocalypse too because he was already in and out. But whatever. Um, he if that so that just goes to show you Kimber can pick up the slack,
Right.
whatever the director can't do. So think about it that way. If and Shinoya is a talented director. She's she
Oscar
did
winner.
yeah, I mean Oscar winner. She
Never
did
done a.
Miss
Oh.
Marvel. Yeah, she did Miss Marvel. So she's got some some drama, some fiction, whatever. But you get what I'm saying here. You have someone with Kimber to pick up the slack that she may have experience at. He's got in spades.
Mhm.
So if that is true, it actually, in my opinion, only strengthens my argument because
Mhm.
you have now confidence in Kimber can do. And plus, he's done Star Wars. He did
Mhm.
Rebel. He helped.
Mhm.
I don't know how much he did though, because I know he helped create and he helped orchestrate it, which is important.
So he's credited in like 75, 74, 75 episodes of Rebels, which is like almost
As
all
a
of them.
producer. Right.
Um, I think he wrote Twilight of the Apprentice. I'm
Which is great.
I would, yes, I think he was involved and wrote those and the last like couple of episodes of the series.
So I
I'm
just
not 100 on that.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
So I'm just saying it all everything again. I could be totally wrong, but
Hmm.
everything that we're seeing, because the key thing would be if he was director, then I'd be like, maybe it is his own thing. But the fact that he's only a writer and again, I'm always saying producer too, right? I mean,
Right.
was he put in as producer in the Deadline article?
So in the Deadline article, he's credited with being he's going to be the writer and co-producer with Kathleen Kennedy in these three.
Okay, and this is where I would say Kathleen Kennedy needed someone that she could trust because she's probably because to me she needed to get someone who's going to get the stuff done and know and trust it, and that's why I'd say look at she's making up for the mistakes that happened in Rogue One. Because be real, Rogue One was not a smooth transition, right? You
Hmm.
now have a trusted producer that can pick up the slack because Rogue One was a mess. It they, by the mercy of the Force, it turned out amazing,
Hmm.
which she has honestly no business being as good as it is, considering how
Yeah.
much reshoots they did, right? Because you tell anyone you reshot that much movie, which we all knew was like almost half the movie, and it was as good as it was, is a miracle.
Hmm.
So you have that with Solo. I mean, you had Lawrence Kasdan as a producer, but he'd been kind of out of the game for a while, and it was a mess. But now you have someone who has and obviously the Lord and Miller are big. They've earned their credit, right?
Hmm.
Before. So I think you see what I'm painting here, right?
I just wonder, the Hollywood Reporter article cited the new characters, new locations, and I think this may have been just a game of broken telephone with Deadline because so many people came out of the woodworks after Deadline came out with that article and said it's not episodes 10 through 12 right now. It's not episodes 10 through 12. And then
Yeah.
Deadline even like re-edited it. They put it out. That's like, oh, it may not be 10 through 12. And then we're seeing the Ray movie apparently has a new writer. They didn't say if that was Kinberg or not. So I feel like if Kinberg's now the new writer for this Ray movie, why would they have not just leaked that as well to let people know that hey, the Ray movie is having a new direction with Kinberg? Because I feel like versus living in ambiguity, it makes more sense to say
You're right.
that versus like, hey, we're gonna have a new direction. And the article doesn't say that some of these characters can't pop in and be a part of it, but I don't think that Ray is going to be the driving force of whatever Kinberg is doing
It
because
may
of that.
well, and that's the thing, we don't know. And like I said, they put it in there, and they're the only ones who did it. They're the first ones to break it. Again,
Right.
very critical. They were the first ones. Everyone's being like, "Well, I heard this." I'm like, you know what? It's it's so if this is so far along, how is it leaking just now?
Hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, what my point is this: I think is a controlled leak. and there's probably leaks within Lucasfilm that are probably also wrong. Let's be real, like it's probably gonna be all over the place. And I have a hard time believing IGN is out of nowhere, or even Hollywood Reporter be like, "Oh, actually, we heard this."
Hmm.
You know, it's like I feel like that's a little bit of like whatever, because I read the article both times. It said, "I'm hearing
Yeah.
it's this." It could never. I don't think it was even retroactively. It said like it was always said where I'm hearing it. It could be 10, 11, or whatever the
Right.
quote is. So just for the record, that's why I said it's critical that they're the first ones who broke it, and it's a very controlled leak. They're the first ones. It's not put there by accident.
Hmm.
They're not going to put that there. That's why I'm saying I think they're putting feelers out there just to get an idea of what's
Hmm.
up. And I do think that the reason why they haven't announced it altogether is very simple. What's their track record of announcing things right now? There's no credibility. There's zero. So the fact if you put Kinberg with this, they're like, oh, another failed attempt for the Ray
Yep.
movie. Why not just wait, get signed? Because remember, Kinberg just signed. It's not like he's been working. Maybe he has been working on it. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like he's been on there for months and whatever. Like the Lindelhoff deal was. This was a signed 3-picture deal. This is a big. That's why they leaked it before, because they
Hmm.
knew once they signed this, they'd have to leak it, or it would have leaked out eventually.
Right.
So for me, it's like Kathleen Kennedy has to be very careful what gets released right now, and that's why I think that's why they're not saying everything right now,
Do you think
because
at Star Wars Celebration in April that they are going to skirt all this other movie stuff under the rug and try not to address it at all and just keep you focused on Mando and Grogu? Or do you think we'll have some concrete information and the whereabouts of some of these other films, whether it's Mangold, whether it's Ray, whether it's
right,
something to do with Kimberg,
okay,
or
yeah,
even
okay, so
even other shows projects? Because I'm just wondering that you have Mando Grogu's in 26. That's still a long way. It'll still be a year out by the time
yeah,
the celebration
yeah.
hits. So you can easily just spend all your time focusing there and not even risk anything else with one of these other films. Or do you think they're gonna feel good enough in 5 months' time to say, "Hey, this is a person. He's in front of you. This is attached. This is what's happening."
Well, yeah, this is where I would say it's either going to be, it's a cop out answer. It's either going to be all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So either they're just going to focus on Grogu and not worry about anything Kinberg Ray related and just focus, which again would be smart.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is again going back to the announcement. Kinberg is a writer producer.
Mm-hmm.
What do producers do? They have to approve the script. He's literally he's writing the movie, producing with Kathleen Kennedy. So it's literally going to Kathleen Kennedy and saying, "I got the script now." So the way I see it is, between now and April is a good chunk of time. He could, and he doesn't have to get the final script done, but he's got to get an outline
Mm-hmm.
verbatim. He has to get a title. He can get a title, all that shit. Sorry, I didn't swear, but you get what I'm saying.
If we get
He
through Celebration in April and they don't say a word about any other movie other than
Grogu.
Mando Grogu, how are you feeling discouraged by that, or are you feeling more encouraged because you're saying, okay, they don't want to get people's hopes up. I'm okay with that. We're just trying to write it out. Or are you like, man, we still don't know what the like hell we're doing. We can't even say anything.
I I would say I think at this point they have to say something because their credibility is so brutal. But again, if Kinberg, that's what I'm saying. If they put Kinberg with the Ray movie, it adds credibility because they couldn't find a writer. They got a writer, or
Mm-hmm.
producer, and then you announce, and he comes out with Ray or with Daisy and
Mm-hmm.
says, "Hey," and should know, and the director maybe again, like let's say, "Hey, you know what? Here's our movie, Star Wars Episode 10, blah 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 blah." You think the people would erupt?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he
Here's the
announces it, like
problem:
here's
is if the people just saw Last Celebration, They brought out Filoni, they brought out Mangold, they brought out
Right.
Daisy. It's like how if you're now pitching them something completely different, it's like, oh,
It's
what
not
you heard
different though.
last, it
It's not different. You still got
it,
Ray. You still
it, it
got. You
would
still
be
got.
different.
It's how. It's a Ray movie about Jedi. It's the only difference is you have to episode. It turned into episode 10. That'd be the only
Hmm.
difference.
Because here's the problem: is that they've once
Okay.
again reshifted everything on fans again. I think people are excited, but if for some reason something is not going on with the Mangold film and that's having issues, or we haven't heard anything about Filoni's film, I just wonder. There's only so many times that they can go
Filoni's
to
film
a
is Grogu though.
celebration. Do what?
Filoni's film is Grogu, so we know that's coming out.
No, that's Favreau's film. Filoni's film is Heir to the Empire.
Oh
Like,
wait, hold on. I'm getting confused here. Is I'm getting see, I'm getting all,
mhm.
there's so many announcements. I can't keep them all together. So wait, so the Mando movie is not by. I thought it was by Filoni.
No, Favreau is directing.
Okay,
He's
you're right.
handling
You're
that one.
right.
Filoni's attached. I mean, he's going to be involved. He's involved in
Right.
everything
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
with his
Yeah.
role. But I mean, that's Favreau's baby. Filoni is focused solely on Ahsoka season 2. Like he's working and writing
That's true.
on
You're right.
that.
You're right.
And
I'm
that Filoni's
totally mixed up.
different. So I, I
Well,
I think people would be really excited about episode 10, like you do that. But my problem is that we would have multiple celebrations now where you have a different direction in terms of the films that you're going
but
to be
it's not
announcing.
that different. It's not that different. This is what the only difference is. It's episode 10 instead of just our Jedi. It's like a Jedi Order movie, episode 10.
Do you think Ray
You just
fans
make
would be
it.
happy about a Ray trilogy with her as the old Obi-Wan
But that's
mentor
your assumption.
archetype?
That's your assumption. You don't know. That's again. You don't.
That's just what I've read from people who are usually on these things.
Yeah, but they're talking about something that they have no idea that again, this is all retroactively after the Ray League or the. And
Mhm.
again, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I be shocked if she was some kind of Obi-Wan role. But remember, what if that's like episode 1 through 3 Obi-Wan?
Mhm.
Like he's
Yeah.
the main character.
I think
Like
she's going to be
he's
involved. I think she could pop in 10, 11, 12, or whatever this Kinberg thing is. I think it's
bro.
two different things. I think it's two different things.
I think you're I can't wait. Obviously, we could go on forever about this, but my money either way. I hope it's 10, 11, 12, or in a new saga that's continuing in the future because I don't. We got to keep pushing forward.
Mhm.
We can go back in the past like Dawn of the Jedi, which I don't like I like origin stories, but an origin movie about the Jedi, it's like you know what? Give me Tales of the Jedi like this a bunch of Jedi from back in the day like fighting. Like
Mhm.
that's what I want.
I feel like
That's what I like
it's
to.
less about the dawn. It's like less about the. It's like a mix of like where the first Jedi, but more about like what is the discovering of the Force. Like what is that like? I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
or they think they
Well,
they labeled it like the 10 Commandments of Star Wars almost. Like
yeah. Well, I mean, and listen, Mangold's a good writer. I trust Mangold. I still haven't seen Indiana Jones 5, whatever it is. I need to. I have it on 4K. I haven't seen it yet, dude.
it's
When you have a
fine.
kid, it's crazy.
It's aggressively fine.
Listen, I'm not even the biggest Indiana Jones fan, so I'm like,
Okay, then
whatever.
you
But I
probably
have
won't
them
like
all
it
in
very
4K.
much. You
Yeah,
probably won't
whatever.
like it very much.
But
I
but
love Indiana Jones, so I was like, me saying it's
okay.
aggressively fine is like, if you're not a big Indiana Jones fan, you probably watch it and you're like, okay.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Right? Okay. Well, okay. Here's here's the thing that I'm gonna say that I'm I'm very excited to as we wrap up here, you know, I don't think you could be wrong. I see everything and I'm like it just makes too much again. Every time I think everything makes too much sense, I could be wrong. I think I'm
Right.
wrong or too. So like I don't want to make it
I
sound
hear
like
you.
but it's weird to me that they would go another see because I would even argue, Tyler, that them announcing this as a new trilogy is like it's like how you know what I mean? Like it makes sense to turn this into the Ray thing because
Mhm.
I don't think Ray like you're right. You don't want to race Daisy Ridley, who's a fantastic actress and I think has credibility amongst the general audience, whether or not she's as popular as Luke was, whatever you could, whatever. She's still like people like her.
Mhm.
It's not like she's
Well,
unlikable.
you add credibility to her by making her the face of the next, you know, era as
Exactly.
well.
Which again could be the new trilogy, which I think makes a lot of sense. But that's
Mhm.
again, that's just me. What do I know? But
I
I
my
do.
dream for Celebration is that we get like an official, like updated teaser for Mando and Grogu to kind of hype us up for the year,
Sure.
and we get concrete information about what the next Star Wars movie is after. I think for, and I don't know how you feel about this. I've been saying this for a while. I think that the number one most important thing for Star Wars moving forward is not does the Mando and Grogu movie do well. It's what comes after the Mando Grogu movie, where I think the Mando Grogu movie is just going to be a fun, kind of really fun adventure that takes place.
I
And
agree.
it's going to feel
Yeah.
very much, and it's all about getting people to leave that theater knowing, oh, Star Wars feels kind of back. So in 6 months or in a year, like I cannot wait for that. Like I think we should be able to go see The Mandalorian in 2026 and have a snippet of a teaser or at least or something that plays in that theater after the Mando and Grogu's over or
Mhm.
in the credits or in the trailers before the movie of the next Star Wars movie. Like that should be
Yeah.
the prelude to the big event. And I want to
Right.
know in Celebration 25 in April, what is the big event that's taking place afterwards? Like to me, it feels like it has to be pretty massive.
And let's be real, I think episode 10 would be pretty massive, especially
Mm-hmm.
if you say if you say Daisy Ridley is the
Mm-hmm.
main character of this trilogy still, but she's going to be ushering in because people. I just love.
I
By the
don't
way, as
disagree.
we wrap up, yeah, well, hold on. But I think it's hilarious when these outlets are like, "Yeah, we're hearing about new characters, new locations." Like, well, no, SH Sherlock. I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, no, we're gonna usher out freaking Poe Dameron and Finn again, and like
You
not
say
create new
new
characters.
locations like we haven't gone to Tatooine every 5 minutes for the last decade.
Jakku wasn't Tatooine. I'm not saying it was I'm not, but you get what I'm saying though, right?
But
Like, I just
where did they finish up at?
well as they should back to Tatooine. That was
Back at
I love
Tatooine.
Tatooine, but it's only in the movie like one time.
I think
By the
it's more
way,
about like
Jakku.
Mando and Boba.
By the way, I just want to say for the record, it just Jakku should have been Tatooine. Let's be real. Come on, it's so stupid. God, JJ. Listen. I think JJ did some good stuff in Star Wars, but I think he got a little too cute at times, obviously, and
So
Jakku was one of them.
like this happens with Star Wars all the time. I'm kind of with you because when I see the trailer for Force Awakens and you start off and you're like, "Oh, we're back. It's Tatooine." And it's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, but it's not." I will say I freaking love Jakku now, but it's because of all of the like ancillary content that's come afterwards, like
right.
Shadow of the Sith novel, or I'm hearing a lot of cool things about
Shadows
the
is so good.
Battle
Yeah,
of
I love that
Jakku
book.
comics that are out right now, or I'm
Yeah.
playing the Battle of Jakku and Battlefront 2 or something. Like
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah, dude.
it's all the things that came out after, the films that got me to where I was like, yes, Jakku is awesome. Or even
Yeah.
reading about Jakku a little bit in Lost Stars with Claudia Gray at the end,
Yeah.
like the Empire's Last Stand. So like I'm all in on Jakku now, but yeah, I mean 2015 when I learned there was this new planet, it wasn't Tatooine. I was like, my eyebrows were raised. I was like, why? Why are we showing
Come
this?
on.
This is the desert planet. That's Tatooine.
Right. Yeah,
But
exactly. So,
yeah,
yeah, man, this was I'm excited. Like it's good for me to it's good to know that there's people making Star Wars content like you out there, Tyler, that are ambitious and good people and and are in for a good debate discussion like we
mhm.
do today. Like that's why I love talking the wars with you, my man. Like
Of course,
it's this is it rejuvenates me. I'm telling you,
you got the
I
Star
mean, it's
Wars. I
just
just realized you got the Star Wars shit on.
yeah,
That's
I had to do
fantastic.
that. Yeah, but anyway, no, it's thanks for yeah, I like this this check-in idea. We should brand it some kind of check-in some kind of Star Wars check-in
Yes.
like Echo Base to you copy or something like that. That'd be kind of fun.
We'll
Like,
we'll we'll like we'll workshop some ideas. We'll workshop
okay,
some
all right,
ideas. We'll
that
have
sounds
to
good.
like do the monthly check-in. I love that. But thanks for coming in, Paul.
Yeah, man.
Everybody check out the Comic Binge with Paul. Go ahead, tell us a few things about the Comic Binge though.
Yeah, man. The Comic Binge YouTube channel. It's slowly growing, but our love for comic books and all comic books, whether it be Marvel, DC, Independent. I'm hoping to get more manga on there. Just sequential art, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we are whatever reason, we just been doing a lot of DC heavy content lately. And I'm a Marvel zombie. I grew up on Marvel comics, and I love Marvel more than DC, just because I grew up with it. But we've been diving in a lot of DC lately, and it's been a lot of fun. A lot of absolute Batman review did really well. We're doing a Grant Morrison issue by issue breakdown for his Batman run, which has been really crazy. One of my best friends, Chris, who's my co-host, it was his idea, and it's been like I wasn't sure
Mm-hmm.
about it at first. I'm like, you're my boy, I'm going to support you, let's do it. But I'm like, no, he's right. People love it, and it's been a lot of fun. I love it too. So we did a Ghost Rider episode for Halloween. Yeah, just go check it out. If you love comic books
Mm-hmm.
or interesting comics, go check it out, because the thing is, we're about promoting the medium. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to spoil people. I try to give examples of things. So, yeah, lots of fun stuff ahead. If you know comic book YouTube channels like for the love of comics, Angshuman, he's been on a couple times. He's coming on again next month. Super excited about that. That's gonna be a great. Though honestly, I almost feel like I have the show just to hang out with Angshuman. I'm like, can you just come on my show and we can hang out? Like, and he's so gracious. He's like the nicest dude in the world. He's like, oh yeah, I'll come on. No big deal. I'm like, oh sweet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Love that guy. He's great. So anyway, check that out. In our regular other podcast, been on hiatus for a while just because of stuff. The saga continues with Tim and Kyle, some other really good friends. Love those guys. We go even deeper, like hours of depth discussion. If you think like this, that the three of us, yeah, it's crazy. So go check that out.
Well, I know. I
Kyle, you're the
listen.
man.
I've been waiting for the next episode. Now that we have this news, it's possible that the saga could actually be continuing. So it
Oh,
seems
it
like it's
is,
about time that we bring back another episode of the saga continues.
man. That episode's gonna be like, man. You hear me and Kyle now are yelling at each other. I can hear it now. So
We'll divide
we'll
it.
see.
You'll have to divide it into like a 3-part segment one for that
I
one.
love it.
Not sure the hard drive could take the 4-hour pod that's gonna ensue.
It's good, dude. Our Rise of Skywalker alone was like 4 hours long. I mean, that's how nuts it was, dude. And I'd say at least an hour and a half of it was just me and him arguing. So anyway,
No, it's fantastic.
anyway.
But no, thanks for hopping on, Paul. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
man.
Everyone, make sure if you're listening to this, you check out Apple and Spotify at Star Wars Newsnet for our audio feeds. We'll see you on Thursday for Star Wars Newsnet Live. I have no idea what we're going to talk about at this point in time,
You'll
but I
figure
had
it
no
out.
idea that this news was going to get announced this week. So you never know what might happen in the Star Wars world. Saturday's timeline show. If you're listening to this, then the timeline show episode 33 should be up by now, which is Luke and I are talking about the first Edge of Balance manga. So check that out. Looking forward to talking about that. It's coming out tomorrow right now. I haven't recorded it yet, but it's coming out tomorrow. I promise. We will record it tomorrow night and then just upload it immediately afterwards. For Light and Life, everyone, remember, we are all the Republic.